Our admin center is where you manage your subscription. This is for the firm's administrator to look after everything to do with TPS for that firm. This is where you can see and change your firm's subscription to TPS, manage the credit card used for monthly payments to TPS, decide how many employees you want licensed to use TPS, and who will be licensed. It's even where you can add an extra layer of login security through two-factor authentication. The administrator has the control over the entire subscription for the firm with TPS, and typically only one person in the firm does this. If you're that administrator, you can get to this admin center by either clicking here on TPS where this bubble is with your initials and choosing Manage Subscription, or by going to admincenter.tpssoftware.com and logging in there. Once here, you start out on the Users and Subscription tab. This is where you can see what kind of subscription you have. As you can see here, I'm using the Ultimate tier. You can change that subscription by clicking here on this blue button. This is also where you decide how many seats your firm would like to use in TPS. So that's how many users, and it's where you decide who is licensed to use TPS. As you can see, I'm using 14 seats. 14 of my 15 employees are licensed to use TPS. Licensed meaning they're using one of my licensed seats. As you can see, this is also where, when initially setting up your TPS app account, whoever was in charge of that, possibly you, would have made someone an admin. Again, probably you if you're watching this and trying to understand what the admin center can do for you. You'll also notice on my screen I have a notice up here that says I have unused seats. This is just the system letting me know that I have some open seats, and it's letting me know I can remove the unused ones if I want to. Also, here I can see when my account was activated, and I also have this notification here that you can just ignore. It's basically just because I'm on a practice demo database, so it's letting me know I have a non-billable license, so just ignore this. So when you have a new employee join your firm or someone you'd like to give access to TPS to, this is where you'd come after adding them as an employee in TPS. So once you add that new employee and log in here, you can then add a seat if you don't have any open and available, then find them on the list and click to activate them. If you don't see them on the list, you can come up here where it says Synchronize Employees, and you should see them show up on the list. If they still don't show up for some reason, you can add them manually here. I go over how to add new employees in greater detail in the employee screen video here in TPS. We're going to come back to this screen in a moment, but let's go ahead and move over to the Billing tab. Here's the Billing tab screen from one of our paid accounts. The Billing tab shows you everything about your billing with TPS. So it shows you your next payment date, which kind of account you have, and how much it's costing you per seat per month. And this is also where you find your credit card information. So this helps you manage which card is being used for your monthly billing. Then you have the Security tab. Multi-factor authentication is an essential security measure that could be implemented by the firm to ensure that only authorized users can access your database, providing an additional layer of protection. So do you want to use two-factor authentication for your entire firm? If you say yes, it will not be optional at that point. This means when your employees go to log in, after putting in their username and password, they'll be prompted to enter a code from the authentication app on their mobile device. I go over this in greater detail in the two-factor authentication instructional video here on the help screen at the bottom. You can't see it on my recording screen, but it says Security Two-Factor Authentication. If one of your users needs to disable multi-factor authentication, listen up. This is how you do it. The Admin Center does allow the administrator or manager to disable multi-factor authentication for a specific user. We know situations may arise where a user needs to change the device that was configured with the Authenticator app. In such cases, multi-factor authentication must be disabled for that user to configure a new device within the Authenticator app. With this new feature, the user responsible for managing the Admin Center can now disable multi-factor authentication for a specific user when necessary by finding that user and clicking here where it says Mobile Multi-Factor Authentication. If I click on that, it allows me to set security back to default. It's important to note that you should use this feature with caution. Once multi-factor authentication is disabled for a user, they will need to configure it again, as reusing a deactivated code will result in errors. The Administrators tab. If you want a co-administrator, which is kind of a rare event, this would be like if you're going to be going out of town or etc., you can set them up here. Once you give them permissions, they have it. They'll have all permissions, so do this very judiciously. User details, this is where you put your main firm details. And the app tab will just take you into the TPS app. And I think that about covers it for managing your subscription.